You've spent an entire career fighting fires and rescuing the injured, sick, and dying. But that's all over now. What do you do when the sirens stop, you've hung up your gear, and you walk out of the firehouse for the last time? What do you do with your life when the smoke clears? Welcome back to the When the Smoke Clears podcast. I'm Russell Miles. I'm here with Tony Ben Cosme. Thanks again for joining us, sitting down with us with another individual who has finished their career in the fire service and is now telling the tale of what happens afterwards. We really appreciate everybody's support as usual. Thank you for listening or watching wherever you are hearing or seeing us. And again, thank you very much for all of that. And Tony's going to tell us a little bit about who we have on with us today.
All right. Thank you again, Russ. I want to say thank you to all the listeners out there. Everybody's catching us on YouTube. Appreciate the time that you give us. These are all great stories that we want to pass on from people we really respect and admire. Also, what's that? The fundraising thing that we're doing? Coffee.
Buy me a coffee.
Buy me a coffee. Yeah, please check that out. And we also have some merch that if you want, when the smoke clears, t-shirts, mugs, you name it, they're on the bottom of the YouTube link there. All right. So our next guest, 33 years in the fire service, retired as an EMS duty captain. I've known this brother for a long time. We kind of came in together. He had a few more years than me. He was stationed at the PSTA, our Public Safety Training Academy. He was instructor there for many years. Was stationed there at least 5 years, but was on and off there throughout his career. Was a station officer at Station 12, was involved in a multitude of things from recruiting to you name it. He was doing it. And without further ado, I want to give it to my good friend, Captain Stacey Jones. Welcome, Stacey.
Thanks for having me, guys. Like I said, I've been anticipating this for a long time. You guys are doing great work, man. Great work. Like I said before, man, this is the model of mentorship and leadership right here. This is what it is. If the county could take this mentorship and leadership thing and put it in a bottle, no problems. No problems whatsoever.
Hey, man, we really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know I think my first experience with you was in the academy. I think you were doing recruit PT at the time, and I'm sure you put us through plenty of paces of body weight workouts and all of that. So I'm sure I didn't appreciate it at the time, but now looking back on it, I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, I love doing that stuff, man. But I mean, doing that PT stuff, I love doing that. But you know, the thing with me, whatever I asked somebody to do, I was gonna be able to do it.
Yeah.
If I couldn't do it, then I wasn't gonna ask you to do it. And when I got as far as the PT stuff with me, I kind of bailed out of that stuff when I couldn't keep up with the young guys. I was like, I need to hand it off to somebody else. Now I remember when you came in there, you were tackling some people too. So yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Some of the workouts you put me in, I was like, well, I got to step out and go to the bathroom.
Well, yeah. But I will say, I mean, I modeled my style after people like you who, like, you didn't just say, hey, this is the workout, go do it. But you said, this is the workout, and you were doing it with us. So
right.
I always appreciated your leadership in that.
Right.
But we'll come back to that, I'm sure, somewhere in the course of the interview. But we want to get started just from the very beginning. So tell us a little bit about where you were born and what life was like coming up for you.
So I was born in a real small county. I was born in Emporia, Virginia, and this is like 10 miles north of the North Carolina border. And I grew up in a place called Yale, Virginia. And this is like a real country place, man. You had like one post office and no stoplights or nothing like that. Post office and general store, and that's where my grandparents and stuff like that were born. And that's where my mom and dad met. Then I moved to a place called Prince George, Virginia. And again, I'm pretty small town, stuff like that. I mean, they didn't get like a stoplight until like maybe 5 years ago. So I grew up in a pretty small town.
Okay. And So you grew up down there, and what was life like growing up in the small town down there?
It was, everybody knew each other, and stuff like that. You couldn't get in trouble because even though we didn't have like internet or nothing like that, if you got in trouble, the news would reach you before you got home. So like you got in trouble, like if you did something at school, by the time you got home, your parents knew about it. And this is like way back in the day, man. So you got in trouble at school, got in trouble on the way home, then you got in trouble at home. So you couldn't get away with nothing. So I played a lot of sports because back then, if you guys are around my age, there was only like 4 channels on TV, and TV went off at 11:30.
Yep, it did. It did.
I played every sport I could think of just to get out of the house and have something to do. And I was pretty successful at sports and stuff like that. But I was a big fish in a real small pond. Once I got out of my little area, everybody was like better at sports and stuff like that than me. But it's just something to keep me out of trouble and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have a big family, or was it just you and your parents?
I had a brother. I have an older brother and a younger sister, but my dad had 10 brothers and sisters, and my mom had 8. Wow. So I had a whole lot of cousins and uncles and stuff like that.
Large family.
Yeah, when you talk about family reunion, man, you talk about 200-300 people, man, running around, Everybody had like name tags. I can't call everybody's name now. I don't know all of the cats. Everybody. The funny thing is, my father, out of 11 kids, was like the favorite. His nickname was Mac. Everybody knew Uncle Mac, and everybody wanted to come to his house. And then back in them days, man, my grandfather had a lot of kids because they had a farm, so they were like free labor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So all my uncles and aunts, all my uncles had lots of kids. So I had an uncle who had like 7 kids, and another uncle had 5, and had another uncle that had 6. So I had like tons of cousins and stuff like that running around and stuff like that. But they always wanted to come over to my dad's house because he was a barber. So my uncle would come over his house with his 5 boys, and he'd be sitting there cutting hair all day long. So it was the type of life that I grew up with, man.
Yeah, big family, lots of family around all the time.
Lots of fun.
Nice.
Of fun.
Nice.
Good stuff. Yeah.
So how did the fire service come into the picture for you?
So I went to college, and I went to the military to get money to go to college. Then when I left college, I had a 4-year degree, and I came back to the Richmond area, and I got a job. So I'm working for the city of Richmond. So I got a job. A job requires a 4-year degree, and I'm making $14,000 a year. So I'm like, I can't stay here.
What?
I can't stay here making $14,000 a year.
Right.
So, just like any city government, they would send these circulars around, and they would advertise new jobs. So the one that I looked at had a fire department job. The fire department was offering a job at $26,000 back at the time. It was $26,000 a year. Plus they had the EAP program. So if you had education, then they'd pay you more money. So I had a 4-year degree, $26,000 plus another $26,000. So I was looking at making like $28,000. It was like double the salary I was making there. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go try to do this. So I went, took the test, and they were hiring 28 people, I think, and I ended up being number 32. So, but either way, I was leaving that job. So I left that job, and I tried to get a job with the FAA, being an air traffic controller out in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
So I was out in Oklahoma City for 6 months, and this type of job, they tell you when you went in that they had a 50% fail rate. So 50% of the people came were not going to pass. So most people came twice, and when you came twice, the success rate was only 67%. So you had to have a certain type of mindset you had to have in order to be an air traffic controller. So needless to say, I didn't pass that joker. So I came back here and I stayed with my aunt, and she lived in Suitland.
Yeah.
And she was the DC Baltimore chief of ATF.
Okay.
So she convinced me to just try to apply for some government jobs and stuff like that. So I applied to PG County, Fairfax, Montgomery County, and the Park Police. And then because I had previously applied for the job in Richmond. And probably the only reason I didn't get that job because I didn't know anything about the fire department, and then I did a lousy interview. I mean, my interview was terrible. But, back in the day, my mom, I mean, I didn't have anybody to teach you how to do an interview, go do this, say this. I mean, I knew you go in, you wear a suit and stuff like that, but nobody showed me the ropes on how to do an interview or take an interview or something like that, at least research what you're trying to do or something like that. So I went in cold, I had no idea. But when I came up here, I did a better job at, doing the interview, and I scored really high because Fairfax called me and PG County called me. I mean, Fairfax called me like a couple times because to try to get me to come down there. But I said, by that time, Montgomery had already hired me. So I had no idea about the fire department other than, it was a job and I was going to get a pension. And I really didn't know that. I was just looking for a full-time paying job.
So what branch of the military did you go in, and where'd you go to school?
I went to, I was in the reserves. I was in the National Guard. So I did what's called a split option because they were giving me money for school. So, and like when I talk about not having guidance, I took the ASVAB. So the ASVAB is a military test.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I took the ASVAB, the guy when they graded it, the guy told me that I could have any job except for intelligence.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's how well I did on the ASVAB. So, but again, nobody gave me any guidance. So I took 12B Charlie, which is a combat engineer.
Yes.
A combat engineer, life expectancy in battle is 13 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Why would I take? Well, the only reason I took it is because they were giving you the most money to go to school.
Probably.
So I had this split option thing where you take your basic 1 year, then the next summer you do your AIT or you do your MOS.
So this is the Army, obviously, right? This is the Army. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So I went there in the first year, and it was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
It was hot, and there was nothing out there, man.
Nope.
Hot and nothing out there.
Okay.
So where'd you go to school when you finished your?
I went to James Madison.
James Madison. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
James Madison used to be an all-girls school, and then there was a school down the road that was Bridgewater, which was an all-girls school. So you know what I did for my first 6 months of college.
Had a good time. Yeah.
I had a good time.
All right. So go ahead, Miles.
Yeah. What did you study in school?
I majored, this will be funny, nobody believe this. I majored in art. I got a major in art, a minor in art history, and a minor in psychology.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. What was your thinking about what you would do with that?
So again, I didn't know. I went to school for what I liked to do, not what I wanted to do as a career.
Right.
And again, like I said, my parents really didn't. Nobody really was guiding me in what I wanted to do or what I should do. You go to college and you do something. Like for right now, I tell my son, if you're going to go to college, I'm going to spend $80,000 to $100,000 or even more for you to go to college. I'm going to spend money on something that when you finish, you can go and get a job at. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to get like a general degree or something like that, no, that ain't going to work. you're gonna have to have some type of focus or purpose or something like that. So, I mean, what was your question again?
What did you?
So, when I got out, I ended up working for the city of Richmond, and I ended up working for a sign shop. And basically, what they did is they made street signs.
Okay.
They made street signs.
Okay.
But again, I knew that the salary wasn't what I wanted. The guy who hired me, a month after the guy hired me, he said to me, "I know you're not going to stay here because this job doesn't pay you enough money, and you're just looking for something to start." And 18 months later, I was gone.
Yeah. He was right.
Yeah, those times I remember that. I mean, so you get hired here. What recruit class was that?
I was in recruit class 6.
Okay, recruit class 6, and you start. And I know that's like 22,000. Am I correct? 22,000.
21,591.
Okay. All right. Needless to say, you made more than that considerably when you retired.
I made a lot more.
Okay.
But coming up here, when I got my first paycheck, man, I looked at them like, this is not a lot of money.
No.
Living in Montgomery County, living in Maryland, you know, prices for everything was high.
No.
Still not a lot of money.
All right. So how was recruit class, and how did you go through that? I know it was a different time. It was more militaristic than it is now.
So
quasi-military.
It's funny because I've been through the military. I've been a platoon sergeant both times. I went through my training. They put me in charge of the platoons and stuff like that. And then when I was in the military, my first example of leadership is my father. Very first example of leadership. I mean, this cat was no nonsense. He was taking care of his family. Like anytime he had a chance to, I remember he would work 16 hours, come home, sleep, come home and eat, go to sleep, wake up, go back to work another 16 hours. And anytime his job offered him any type of overtime, he would take it. And he often worked night shift because he would give them extra money to work night shift. So I didn't see a lot of my parents were together, great loving couple, but I didn't see a lot of either one of them because my mom worked midnight shift and my dad worked swing shift. So me and my brother, a lot of times we were left alone. We got home at like 3:00 in the afternoon. My mom didn't get home till 11:30. She would always have, food for us and stuff like that. And my dad was always working. And my mother was a champ that she was supposed to be. When we got home, it was like, leave your dad alone. He's got to work. She made food for him, got him up, make sure he got up to go to work. Never a problem. She never complained about nothing. But she got her roses later on when obviously, like after I left and my brother left and things got better for them, there was nothing that woman wanted that she didn't get. But
great.
I had a platoon sergeant. His name was Robert Hunter. And in the military, he didn't care. He was the platoon sergeant, but he didn't care what your rank was. If you knew how to do it, then he would give you the job, and he would put you in charge of anybody. He didn't care who it was.
Wow!
As long as you knew what you were doing, then you did it. And it was me and like 3 other guys that kind of ran our whole platoon because, we had our stuff together. He would always give us 4 guys stuff to do. And there were other E5s and stuff like that. And they would like give us a side eye. He was like, no, man, these guys are doing it because they know what they're doing. And that was the second like type of leadership and stuff like that I got. But to get back to what you were saying, the fire department, all this stuff that I went through was new to me. And especially the attitudes that they had. And I'm like, I was in there. I'm just trying to, pass. So to me, I'm like surviving day to day. Take this class, take this test, pass, take this class, take this test, pass, go to the next day. All these other cats that were, knew about the fire department and stuff like that, after class every day, they wanted to go out and drink. I'm like, no,
I know. I can't do that. Yeah.
I'm going home. I got to study,
Yeah,
So
they
I'm
cut you loose.
going home and hitting the books, man, every day. Because, fear is a big motivator. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it is. Yes,
So, that's what it was like for me every day, man. But then, some of the traditional stuff about the fire department and stuff like that, all that stuff is new to me. And like all the unwritten rules and stuff like that, all that stuff is new to me, man. I'm like, I don't understand this, If somebody put something down in writing for me, or give me a form for me to fill out so I can figure out what's going on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're done the recruit class. Where do you get signed to? Where's your rookie time at?
My first assignment was stationed in Cabin John. So my first assignment was station 30.
Okay.
And then after station 30, I was a river. Yeah, I wouldn't go on there. I wouldn't go on any boat unless it was Tim Thorne was driving it. The mother cats didn't know what they were doing. But it was fun because even though we didn't run a lot of calls, we did stuff like cutting cars in half and driving around the parking lot and stuff like that. Lieutenant Thorne was at the time it was lieutenant or sergeant, I think, maybe a sergeant back at the time, but he always made stuff fun, and training was really cool. And then I got transferred to I traded with somebody because somebody had some family issue or something like that, and I traded and went to Station 10, and then I was on that Station 10 after that.
Yeah. So what made you become a paramedic? Because you're a paramedic early on.
Well, two things. One is I was bored, and two, I looked at Todd Dowland's paycheck, and I looked at his
Todd Dowland, yeah.
I said,
paramedic,
why do you get more money than everybody else? He said, well, because I'm a paramedic. I'm like, okay, I think that's what I'm going to do. So, it was kind of a money thing. The other thing, I was kind of bored because being at station, at Cabin John, you don't really do a whole lot. And the guys down there, I was really trying to get ahead. I knew what the classes were for me to get your Fire 3 and stuff like that. So I was trying to get my Fire 3. I was trying to get ahead. And those guys weren't trying to do anything, I try to, always try to, hey, let's go train on this. Let's go train on this. Like I was taking the pumps class, right? I was enrolled in pumps class, and so I was trying to get the guys to go out and do some pre-stuff with me, let's go over the wagon and stuff like that. So when I go to class, I already have all this stuff knocked out. So no, you got to have pumps first. You got to take class first. You got to do this first. I'm like, why? So why do you got to do it first? I mean, it's not like, I'm like, all right, whatever. So I left, got in medic class, where I met the infamous Charles Bailey.
Yes, sir.
we were in medic class together.
Charles Bailey. Chief Charles Bailey now.
Chief Charles Bailey. So took the medic class, and then I got assigned to Wheaton. And he was at Wheaton also. So back in the day, you get your medic class and you get a key to the medic box. You give you a master key to the medic box. So we both got our keys the same day, and we were both working at Wheaton. The very first day after we got checked off to be medics, both of us got in trouble on the same call.
What?
Because back then you had to be, we were both Fire 2s. You had to have a Fire 3 or master on the unit to ride with you, right? Yeah. So we got to Wheaton early. It was like 5:45 or something like that. And a call went out. So I looked at him. He looked at me. We got on the unit and took the call. I was like, yeah, you're supposed to take that call. I'm like, hey, man, there was nobody else here to take it. So, But it was funny.
Good.
Ed Radcliffe was there. I met D. Howard there. I met Todd DeMent there.
Todd DeMent.
Russell Chapman. I don't know if you remember Russell.
Yeah, Chappie. Yeah.
Jeremy Gruber was there.
Gruber.
I think Lieutenant Wells was so Sergeant Wells was the sergeant at the time. Rob Reyes.
Reyes, yeah.
God, what is that? Bob Lindsay, you know, all those
Bob
guys,
Lindsay.
man. Yeah. Bob didn't like to read the map. He just sitting in the unit and tell you to go somewhere. I was like, where are we going? I said, well, we'll find it. I'm like, come on, man. Berciati was there too, man.
Berciati, he just retired.
Yeah, I know. I missed that. But
just retired.
It was fun times there, man. And I think what I liked about Wheaton is that the crew didn't wait for the station officers to say anything. All this guy, and I think Chief Davis ended up being there before I left, but and Mike McAdams was there also. Yes, but they would come out, put the lineup on the board, and that's all they would do. Everything else that happened during the shifts, we took care of. Any cleaning, anything that happened. And it was a nice time being at that small little dinky rundown joint because there was a lot of cohesion with the crew, you know. And we did a lot of good training. That's why I got checked out as a Fire 3 by driving the squad there instead of driving the wagon.
Okay.
And I love squad work, man. Squad work was great.
Nice. Okay. How long did you spend in Wheaton?
I was there, I think, like 3 years, and then after I left Wheaton, I left Wheaton right before they started paying you that extra 2 hours.
Oh. Yeah, six to seven.
I with my money back, you know.
5 to 6, 6 to 7.
Yeah. So I left there and I went to Station 1, you know, and Station 1, man, that was tough, man. Medic 91.
Yep.
PG.
Medic 91 was crazy. I rode the so I think one of the another thing that kind of shaped my career that's maybe a little bit different is because back then there weren't a lot of medics. There weren't AFRIS and stuff like that.
No, there weren't. No.
And a lot of people took that medic route, got promoted, and then dropped as soon as they got promoted. But that's a different story. But I rode medic 19 for a year, and I rode the wagon for 10 hours the whole year.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
You lived on that medic unit.
I lived on that medic unit. I mean, I didn't really complain about it, you know. I didn't mind being a medic. I liked being a medic and stuff like that. I wish I would have had more time riding on the fire trucks and stuff like that. But you know, it is what it is. But I think the only thing that bugged me a lot is when people thought because I was a medic that I wasn't interested in the fire apparatus.
Right.
You know, and which wasn't the case. I mean, I was always interested in training and stuff like that. I was always interested in knowing stuff and, you know, riding on different apparatus and stuff like that. But when you spend 99% of your time on a different piece of apparatus, then, you know, what chance do you have to do anything other than ride that piece of apparatus?
You got to remember the prevailing thought back in those days was that if you took the extra training, you wanted to be on it. You don't want to be on nothing else. That wasn't the case. And that was the beginning. We knew EMS was the driving force to all fire and rescue services across the country.
Right.
But it was still a prevailing thought. I mean, you got to remember when you came in, I came in a little after you, that we still had guys that could barely hold on to their EMTs. I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had guys we had some guys that were getting out when we came in that were barely EMTs. They were like grandfathered in some kind of way. Yeah, some kind of way where they didn't have to. Yeah, so you still were used in the early stages. Now, as you can, you know, you just left not a year ago. You know for a fact that our medics, if you want to be on a fire truck, you become a medic.
And well, that was a flip. Now, in order to get on the apparatus, you become a medic just to
Yeah.
get on the apparatus.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the guys who are becoming medics, they really don't have any real desire to be a medic. They have a desire not to be on the ambulance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But,
Which
yeah,
is strange because the ambulance is the lifeblood of the fire service. You know what I'm saying?
it always but it was always interesting to me that the unit that probably has the most exposure
Yes.
and most effect on people in our organization, we put the least trained person on there.
Right. That's not just here though. I think that's everywhere.
And we want to put the least trained person on there.
I mean, it's a good way to learn. It's a good way to learn the area. It's a good way to learn how the system works. But I think still, it's everywhere. I don't think it's just here.
Yeah.
We do get a rotation a little better now at some places. And I think that every firehouse in Montgomery County or in any place should have an EMS unit there attached to it, because you need to do both.
Right.
You need to do both. Right. That's just the nature of the beast, especially in these large areas that we're serving, metropolitan areas, suburban areas, outside of large metropolitan areas. So, I mean, I don't think you can get away with not doing that.
Yeah, but I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that was always like a point of contention with me. I'm like,
right.
If back then, if you asked me to get on the truck, get on the engine, get on the squad, I could get on there and do my job, right? Without question. But then there are people who are on trucks, engines, and squads. You ask them to do just the basic EMS stuff, and you couldn't do it, Or not only could you not do it, you didn't have any real desire to do
it.
Yeah, it was just crazy to me.
That's a cultural thing, and we're still the fire service in general is working its way through that. I think that's changed in many ways. It just kind of evolved in different ways, I would say.
Yeah.
It evolved in different ways.
To be honest with you, I don't think that. I think it's an East and West Coast thing.
I agree. Well, South too.
I think that I think the East Coast will never get into the mode of actually being EMS. So I remember going to a EMS conference, and there are not a whole lot of municipal-based EMS services that are out there now. Most of them are hospital-based. So a lot of the stuff they were talking about, and a lot of things we were talking about, they were like, "You guys still do that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." But
yeah, sometimes we're hampered by some traditional stuff that we just can't. We're slowly. You got to bring everybody along. That's the issue, is that you just can't jump ahead. You gotta bring everybody along so they can all come with you to this whole thing that you're doing moving forward. And unfortunately, we know it just takes time. It's never as fast as we would like. I mean, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. It's never as fast as you would like. Yeah.
33 years. 33.
Snail's pace.
Yeah. And it's hard too, man, because the fire service is such a powerful entity where, you have people who want to do all the fire stuff, go into the burning buildings, all of that. And that is a culture in and of itself.
It is.
And then you have the whole EMS side, which is another culture in and of itself. And there's the way that the majority of fire departments countrywide are, that these two entities live right next to each other, and they have to coexist. And in a lot of departments, like you're not hiring nearly as many people as you are if you don't do some type of fire and EMS combined service.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
In my final role as an EMS duty officer, I had to go to, when I first started, I had to go visit every station during your shift. Okay. And then as things got busier, it was sort of you pick and choose and stuff like that as things went. these are the officers or the crews that I respected when I went out there. You sit there and you watch a fire call go out, you know, they'd run to the unit, jump on the unit. You know, before the door could get up, they were like hauling ass out the door, down there. I mean, excuse my language, they were hauling tail down the road. Okay. An EMS call go out. They would, you know, put the stuff in the refrigerator, cover the food, go to the bathroom, you know, before they get to the unit, right?
Right.
When I went to a station and the fire call went out, everybody dropped what they were doing. They got up and went to the fire apparatus. They got on and went on the call. The EMS call went out. They did the exact same thing. They stopped what they were doing. They got up and went straight to the unit. That's leadership. Right. You're not going to do half your job. You're going to do all of your job.
Yep. All of it. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree 110%. It's you got to be about it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
About both of it. I mean, both are important. Both are equally important.
Oh yeah.
And yeah.
And I guess the other part of it is if you're being a leader, you're here to say you're going to be responsible for everything encompassing your job, not half of it. You know.
Right.
And that's saying that you do the stuff that you like to do and you do the stuff that you don't like to do. It's all part of the same gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to do what you don't like to do what you do like.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I get lost. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. Human nature, I guess, takes over sometimes. But as a rule, people do shine in those moments. I think that what happens is, and it's been my experience, is that people want the exciting call. It's been my experience with the people that I work with that they're just tuned out over the mundane.
Yeah.
They want, I mean, if it's a working code with a viable person, a child, a legitimate accident, where people, they're engaged, man. They're there to make a difference. They want to make a difference. Yeah. The issue becomes, to get to that one call, you need 10 of the regular ETOH.
Oh, yeah.
One down.
Yeah.
Somebody hurt their knee.
Sick person. Yeah.
I was
but that's
between Wheaton and Silver Spring. I knew every drunk by name. By name, I knew them, you know.
I say, every person that's listening to this right now, I don't know, and you're not from this fire department or you're just in the fire service in general, they have that relationship with their local community, with the people that they serve like that too. They know the locals, they know the regulars. They have a weird relationship with these people. They don't want to admit it or not, because that's what you develop over time. You run them 4 or 5 times, and
that's why I loved Wheaton. I loved Station 1 to a certain degree. I loved Station 12. You know, because you got out and you met the people, and most of the people were cats just like you. You know, going to work, taking care of their families and stuff like that. There wasn't anything. Not saying there wasn't anything special, but you know, they were people.
Regular people.
Regular people.
Yes.
So you're done your medic stuff, and now it's time for you to promote. What made you want to do that, and what was the catalyst for getting that done?
So I listened to a lot of people as I was in my travels and stuff like that. They talk about, well, I'm going to be a master for this long because I think you should get experience, or you should be you shouldn't get promoted if you don't know what you're doing, or you should run this many calls before you do this. And I'm like, I'm a medic on a piece of fire apparatus 90% of the time. When am I going to get any time on a fire truck to get that experience? I'm not.
Yeah.
You know? The way I looked at it, these were the parameters that they set out in order to take the test. These were the parameters they set out in order to pass. These are the parameters that they set out to get promoted. So that's what I did. I met the guidelines to get promoted, so I got promoted. I mean, when I thought about getting promoted to lieutenant, I knew I was going to get promoted to lieutenant, and I knew, but my basic job title wasn't going to change. There weren't any medics 2 years ago. And when I get promoted, now I'm not going to be a medic. So where am I going to be? I'm going to be a lieutenant on the medic unit. You know, it's going to be incumbent on myself in order to get that training. And the other part is when I was going through the fire service, I'm looking at all of these inconsistencies of how people are being treated, how one person can do whatever they want and then somebody else gets in trouble for sneezing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at all these inconsistencies and I'm like, if I'm not gonna let this guy be in charge of me. You know,
Okay.
I'm not gonna let this guy be in charge of me. And if I want to change anything, I have to promote. I'm looking at myself being on the medic unit, and I'm like, if I ever want to get off this medic unit, or if I ever want to do something, I can't stop at lieutenant. I have to be a captain. I have to promote. I have to do something in order to change the way the system is.
Right, to affect
I
change.
I can't change anything if I don't have a seat at the table. You
Right.
know, and I'm also looking at myself and say, well, the other thing is I don't know if I can change anything based on the demographics. You know. But I said, you know, that was my part. I would say 50% of my desire to promote was I wanted to change stuff. The other 50% was I didn't want people to be in charge of me.
So
that I didn't respect.
you do well on the test. Do you go to master? You go straight to lieutenant, and where do you go?
No, I went to master. I was a master at Station 12. Station 12 was one of the places that I loved.
Hillendale, yeah.
Hillendale was a great place to be.
I worked there, yeah.
I think Bush was my captain at when I was at 12.
Bush, good dude.
Kevin Benz was there with me, but Kevin was with me at Station 1. He was on a different shift, and he was also at Station 12. And Kevin was also with me in recruit school. I met Darren Carter there. And Darren going back and forth with Mike Luke and them guys. I'm like, Darren, you crazy, man. You're crazy. Them cats just keep going back and forth with each other all day long. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I had a good time at Station 12. I think, but when I was at Station 1, so let me go back a little bit, and I have to make this point. And you're going to talk about this later, but I met Donald Gladden at Station 1.
Mm-hmm.
Gladden, yes, sir.
Yep.
And Marvin Robinson is his brother-in-law, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my grandmother died when I was at Station 1, and my father died when I was at Station 1. My mother died when I was at the training academy. So we talk about, brotherhood, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You got it, brother.
We talk about saving lives.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter is his oldest daughter is my goddaughter, but Darren Carter and his family.
Yes, sir.
Give me a minute.
You good,
It's okay.
man.
Yep. Take
You
your
good,
time.
man.
Donald Gladden and his family. Marvin Robinson and his family. They saved my life. Not in the fact that they rescue you from a fire, but they gave me a home when my family structure in Virginia was gone.
Mm-hmm.
I was up here. I had lived here. I left home when I was 21. So I've been here longer than I've been there. But and I can say this. When we talk about family and brotherhood, there is not a cat. And when I cat, you know what I'm talking about. When I say cat, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That can say, I need you, and all I'm going to say is when and where. But for me, is that reciprocal in the fire department? A lot of people looked at me as being standoffish and stuff like that.
Right.
But there's a quote that James Baldwin said, and the quote is, "I don't believe what you say because I see what you do."
Mm.
I see what people did, and I'm like, I don't want to be involved in that.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I wasn't standoffish. I just chose who I wanted to be involved with. And if you were that type of dude, I didn't want to have nothing to do with you.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you. Understand.
Yeah.
Understand. No question.
Mm-hmm.
So they get you through these tough times. I know we always lean on people, especially here, and you find solace from the craziest places, but you never forget it, man. They cover you when you need it the most, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when it's raining.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm interrupting.
No, you're not interrupting, man. We're here for you.
Yeah.
We're here to hear your story. No, we're here hear your story. Because I'm gonna tell you, when I was taking promotional exams, you probably don't remember this. You pulling me aside and talking to me and giving me stuff that you did and booklets to read and things to do. So you were quick to give out a hand, say, do this, do that, try this, try that. So
I'm gonna tell you what I did, and I'm gonna tell you a story that's just funny. So when I studied for the promotional exam, and I think this is the other thing, I don't bend the knee and pray to God every night. But I truly believe that God has put me where He wants me to be. And when I say that, I was never afraid of competition, and I was never afraid of if somebody was smarter than me, then they're smarter than me. If they had something, if they were in a position that I wanted, then I need to compete for the position. If they beat me in that position, then that's fine. I was good with that. So when I studied for the Master Firefighter's exam, I took all that material, I studied, and I made myself a packet, a booklet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was about 113 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I remember back in the day when you had the computer, they had the CD writer.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the store and I bought a pack of about 100 CDs. And I wrote, and every brother that I saw, I gave him a copy of what I was studying. I gave him a copy. I said, here you go. This is my study notes. If they help you, they help you. If not, whatever. You can do whatever you want to with it. Okay. You remember Melvin Gregory, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So a couple of years after I got promoted, I was sitting in the office. Melvin calls me, says, hey, look, man, come back. I got to tell you something. So he tells me the story of how he's sitting at the table and these guys are studying and they have the study material. Everybody is in that mode. Everybody's, hyper competitive about promoting stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he walks to the table and says, what do you guys got? What do you guys studying? And he said, well, we got some study material and stuff like that. So, well, I don't know if we can share it and stuff like that because I got it from somebody else, right? I'm like, okay. So Melvin's like, all right, cool, whatever. So this person, I'm not going to say names, this person pulls him aside and say, look, I got this thing here. Don't give it to nobody, okay? Guess whose stuff it was?
Your stuff.
It was my stuff. You see how devious people are, man. I'm like, this ain't your stuff, and you trying to hoard it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's very competitive, man.
I mean,
it's very competitive.
I get that, but
So you're promoted to lieutenant, and I know you mentioned it before, but where did you go? Where were you stationed at, and where did you go after that? Because I know you went to the PSCA.
I went to 3 first, and that was my worst assignment. Oh my God, I get hives even thinking about going to 3.
Uh-oh.
I hated that place.
Yeah, why was that so bad?
Because it was the constant flow of people going in and out. The volunteers are just, oh my God, it was crazy. And when I thought career people didn't have any organization or career people couldn't get their stuff together, man, I'm like, these volunteers over here or buck wild, man, they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So I was glad they had that medic dorm, because I went in the medic dorm and closed the door, man. I'm like, the one time I came out was when the call went out. So, so I left. I was at 3. Jessamine Carter and Michelle Ruth were my primary partners there.
Oh, okay, Michelle Ruth. Yeah.
And then I went to the training academy as an instructor at the training academy. So I went there. Tim Brown. Now, I had started teaching EMT classes and stuff like that before I went there. So I was already like an EMT instructor, and fire instructor. So Tim Brown was the captain there, and I was lieutenant. And then Russell Blinkhorn came in. He started teaching the next class. He was doing the cadet program at first. So I taught. I was a recruit training, and I was the primary instructor. Tim Brown was the captain there for, and I think I was there for like 5 years. The second, I guess, one of the next important things that happened to me was at the training. Now, Chief Clemens would leave you alone. As long as you were under his good graces and stuff like that, he was a great guy to work with. When he didn't like it, he didn't like it. That's just how he was. But I got promoted to captain, recruit training officer, right? And I emailed a friend of mine, Dwayne Dodwell, who was a battalion chief in Fairfax. And I sent him an email and I said, I'm the recruit training officer. I said, I'm happy to be here. And finally I get to weed some of these people out, some of these recruits that are coming out of here, and, get some good people in the service, right? And I was expecting him to, say congratulations and stuff like that. He sent me an email back. He said, I'm disappointed in you. He said, that is not your job. Your job is to
bring them up.
Officer. Your job is to train them, to expel every bit of energy you have in order to train them, in order to help them to succeed. That's what your job is. I never felt so humble before in my entire life.
Wow.
So that's what I did. From that point on, that's what I did. And another, you remember Curtis Walker?
Yes, Curtis Walker, man. I want to get him on the show, matter of fact.
Another thing that happened to me was when we were in recruit school, I was a training officer, and we were out on the hill, and we were doing a drill. And we were doing something, and they were messing up. And or I had told them to do something, and they had done it wrong. And he said to me, he said, Captain, we can't do anything with you guys yelling at us all day. Everybody's yelling at us. From the time we get here to the time we leave, everybody's yelling at us. And we can't do anything. We can't operate when we're just scared to do anything because somebody else is going to yell at us. I looked at him and I said, you're right. And from that day, I stopped yelling. Another thing that happened to me, I was teaching an EMT class, right? And there were volunteers, right? And I'm yelling at these people for messing up and stuff like that or doing something wrong, right? So, and I'm yelling at this guy, and this guy is smiling at me. I'm yelling at this guy. Why is he smiling at me? And so I asked him. He said, "Well, why are you smiling?" He said, "No. I'm gonna say we need to have people to get on us and stuff like that, make sure we do things correct way and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Well, I shouldn't really be yelling. I don't know why I was yelling." So I found out this guy invites me to dinner.
Wow.
This guy is like a multi-millionaire.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, this guy's multi-millionaire, owns several businesses.
And you're yelling at him over
And
here.
and I'm yelling at him.
Know your audience.
Yeah, so I think from those things that happened to me at the training academy, it made me a better instructor, made me a better officer. I thought of myself as being a good instructor, but it made me able to teach better.
Yeah. So you had said before about mentorship and leadership, and with regards to the
leadership right there.
Yeah, I mean that for sure, leadership. Is that the pattern that you saw at the academy, like yelling and berating people? Like, is that where you picked that up from?
They still do that. Well, so here's the thing. Paramilitary organization.
Exactly.
I've been in the military, so I understood what they were trying to do. They just don't do it well. They just don't do it well. They don't know when
to do it. Yeah.
So when you think of paramilitary stuff, right? Why does the military do what they're doing? Why do they do it that way? Well, because most of the stuff they're trying to do is life and death. I mean, real life and death.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't shoot that guy over there, he's gonna shoot you. If you don't shoot that rocket right, the guy at the tank is gonna kill us. If you don't dig this mine, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's real life and death stuff. The training academy is not real life and death. I mean, telling you to pull a hose line, it may be you have somebody trapped in there. I mean, there's an urgency to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they don't know when to turn the faucet off. You know what I'm saying? They don't know when to turn the faucet off. And you can get more done by showing, explaining, and teaching somebody than yelling. If all you're doing is yelling, all you're doing is blowing hot air. And that's what a lot of guys up there did. And they yelled and did stuff for no reason.
Well, that stuff's intoxicating. That perceived power is very intoxicating. So it's tough to catch yourself. I mean, people do it later on in life. They catch themselves. I mean, it's just.
And part of the thing to me was like, this guy that you're yelling at, this person, recruit that you're yelling at, that person's going to be on your shift.
Right.
Mm.
How are you going to yell and scream at him 1 minute, then ask him to be your buddy and be your friend the next minute later on? I'm like, that stuff kind of didn't jive with me a whole lot.
Right.
Well, it goes to everything else we do in the fire service. I mean, how hard are you going to be if you're going to turn around and have him make big time decisions later on?
Right.
I mean, you can just express that this needs to be done. If you're not, these are the consequences. And sometimes maybe you'll accentuate that message in a way that's communicated directly,
right?
And maybe your volume's a little higher, but it cannot be high all the time.
I get that.
It needs to be measured. But the thing is, you got to be able to have this person still be confident to make decisions later on.
Be functional after you finish with them. I have many times I've said things to people so that they, under no circumstances, understood exactly what I was saying. But I don't think I I don't think I treated anybody bad to the point where they were, having anxiety or nightmares about me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, a lot of recruits people that I've talked to later in their careers have said, they had nightmares about going to the training academy, about the instructors there, anxiety about it.
Yeah. And the fire service is difficult enough. The job that we do is difficult enough without us having to put that extra piece on them that's totally unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a way to communicate with people. Sometimes you have to be a little, no, yes, a lot of times, sometimes you got to be stern because some people, but I mean, you got to know when to turn it on and off. You got to know when to pat somebody on the back. You know what I'm saying? You got to know when to slap somebody in the ass or pat somebody in the back. And you got to know the difference. You got to know the difference. And you got to know the difference. And that's where the skill set comes with leadership and actually teaching someone.
Right.
And the good ones really get it down pretty good.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. So you are captain at the academy. You're doing the recruit training. So then what comes next after that?
I left the training academy, went to Station 15 for about 6 months, and then I went to Station 12. I was a station commander at Station 12, and I had a shift there. After I left Station 12, then I went to the EMS duty office. I went to the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then tell us about that, because I mean, I think we all see.
Yeah, we saw you there a lot.
Like we see you there a lot, and I mean now there's a lot more EMS duty officers, so I think people are used to interacting with them a lot more. But what was that like as the full-time EMS duty officer?
I love being an EMS duty officer because I got to interact with people, and I got to, again, it was like an extension of being a teacher and stuff like that. Going on certain calls and stuff like that, making sure things were taken care of and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times you go to, when I went on a lot of those critical calls and stuff like that, people were just looking for somebody to make the decision. And I didn't mind doing that. Sometimes you go on like a pediatric code. Nobody wants to stop a pediatric code, but that was my job to say, hey man, we're not doing anything here. Let's go on and stop. Or when you start doing TORs or a lot of the traumatic deaths and stuff like that, DOAs and stuff like that, I made a lot of those decisions. People had a lot of questions about protocols and stuff like that. I liked doing that. I also liked being able to go out and interact with different people at different times of the day and stuff like that. I love doing that. I love doing that job. That was that job suited me well. I think I did. Something that I really like to do.
Nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, man.
Yeah, it's always great when you can find the role that fits your passion,
Right. And the other thing, I didn't make me showing up as being a detriment. Mm-hmm. If I come there, I'm coming there to help you. I'm coming, hey, look, I listened to this report you did. You shouldn't do this. Okay, I don't want you to do this no more. Or why didn't you do this? Mm-hmm. I wasn't coming here to like take your card away. I'm coming here to help you keep your card.
Yeah.
Don't do this. This is not the way you were supposed to do this. So why didn't you do that? And we have QA and QI and stuff like that. And that's a process that we have to make people better. But I think sometimes they go overboard. Instead of sending me an email, just call me on the phone and talk to me. Ask me what happened. I don't think that the fire department ever gets to doing something in a non-threatening way. I, mean, I don't know how they can't figure that out by now, but you gotta have people be able to trust you.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And people take their job seriously.
Do.
For the most part. So, they come off as, oh, I'm relaxed, but they're nervous, and you can tell they're scared to make a mistake. And
every time I came to somebody's station, I knew that they were nervous about seeing me. If I came in, I came specifically to see you, I knew they were nervous about it. So my first things were like, calm down. We're just talking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that's a function of just the overall environment, or if it's a lack of relationship, or maybe the combination of both. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's all those combined, Russ.
Yeah.
I think all those combined. I mean, you could make it a little more easier, but they're just the intensity in which the person is, most likely, and then the importance of what it means, and then the way we just do our business anyway. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So you were in the car for the last few years of your career. So when did you know the time was right to retire?
So I didn't have I knew that I didn't want to be working when I was 60 years old. I knew I wasn't going to be getting up and, on a fire truck and stuff like that when I was 60. I didn't want to do that. And it wasn't necessarily a moment in the fire department. It was a moment in my life, because the fire department wasn't being a firefighter wasn't my initial reasoning for taking this job.
Mm-hmm.
So my reasoning for leaving was I had all of my stuff in order so that I could leave.
There you go. Gotcha.
So you had all the ducks in a row. Finances were good.
Yep.
It was a good time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you made the decision to go before this job pushes you out, because it can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you remember your last shift?
Yep, I remember my last shift. It was pretty funny. We had it was at Station 18, and we had a cake and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
I thought the Chief Bailey was going to be the fire chief, but he wasn't. I think Goldstein had made Chief Kinsley the
interim,
chief. So he came over and gave me my plaque, and the name on my plaque was spelled wrong. So.
Oh no!
So I'm like, after 32 years, I get a plaque and my name's spelled wrong. So I just gave it to him. I didn't get that thing probably. It was like 2 months ago when I actually got it spelled correctly. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, it's not like a gold watch or nothing like that, but I didn't know.
Oh man.
Close, man.
All right. So if you had something to say to your young self now, looking back, and to any other firefighter coming up, what would you say?
So I'm going to reiterate this. You guys are an example of what mentorship and leadership is. All right. If I had to talk to when I graduated from the training academy, I gave my graduation speech. And I gave a graduation speech that nobody liked.
You gave a graduation speech?
Yeah, because like I said, I had no idea about the
tradition,
brotherhoods, traditions, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my mindset when I was in school is like, I don't need buddies right now. I need somebody to teach me how to do this stuff.
Right?
And that's kind
Did you say that?
Yes. That's what I said in my graduation speech. And then everybody interpreted as you don't need friends. That's not what I said. I said, if I have to make a choice of a friend who knows nothing and somebody who's not a friend that can teach me, I'm taking a guy that can teach me. If
Mhm.
you're my friend and you can't teach me anything, I ain't got no. I don't have any use for you. This is not exactly how I said, but that was the basics of what I was saying in this speech.
I can see how they could take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the militant guy. Who's this Stacey Jones? You don't know what he's talking about. I was the
Right,
militant guy coming out of the training academy. But if I had to speak to myself coming out, I would say this. One, find a mentor. If somebody doesn't present themselves to you, ask questions, find somebody to mentor you. Go back to that person every time you have a question until he can't answer the questions that you ask. Then find another mentor. As you find mentors, mentor somebody else. Don't hoard information, pass it on to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. And I think it actually ties back into what you said in your speech, because the brotherhood comes, at least in my opinion, the brotherhood comes from when that knowledge is passed on and you're teaching this next person how to do the job, and you guys are working hard together, you're struggling together, and you're
Right.
building that brotherhood by doing the job.
Right.
And whatever it is, whether it's fire, it's EMS, it's rescue stuff, like it's because like you said, like at the end of the day, like this is our profession and it's our career. Like we're not here to be friends. Like, yeah, it's great if we're friends, but we should be close because we both take this job seriously and we're both invested into learning the craft and doing the craft the best that we can for the people that we serve.
Well, better yet, if I am your friend, then I'm going to take interest in you succeeding.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what true friendship is.
It is. I want to see you succeed.
Exactly.
Yes. I want to see you succeed. Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
So when you retired, what was it like that first month after you were officially done?
My first day, my first month, my 6th month, gravy. It's been gravy, man. I've been traveling a lot. I've been spending time with my teaching my son just learning how to drive and stuff like that. So spending time with him, teaching him how to drive, finding out that my niece is a wonderful person. She's just graduated from college, taking her to Hawaii for her graduation trip.
All right.
Present.
Nice.
I'm finding out that she is a wonderful person. So spending time with family and just chilling. I'm renovating my kitchen, so that's it.
Nice.
All right. Cool. So you still doing your own thing in a real estate business?
Yep. Yep. Still doing that.
Good.
All right. Very good.
All right. So now you look at yourself. What would you say when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror? Who's the man looking back at you?
Um,
And what would you say to him?
I would say to this man that you achieved a lot for not knowing anything about, as far as the fire service is concerned. You achieved a lot from not knowing anything about the fire service. You left some stuff on the table. You petered out a little bit at the end. But now you're at a point that you need to teach. You're still teaching. You're still teaching your goddaughters. Like my Donald's daughter is my goddaughter, but all of their kids are mine.
Okay.
I'm teaching my kids, teaching other people, and being available to other people to teach them. So I'm still in that teaching mode.
Good.
That's good. Because, yeah, I mean,
Good to hear.
you spent so many years teaching people in the fire service, and now
Yeah.
to hear that it continues on, but just in a
Yeah.
different way is great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
That's great.
want to thank you, brother, for taking this time, and just want to tell you that thank you for your service. You're appreciated. What you did, you did a lot. You gave a lot to this county. You gave a lot to the citizens of Montgomery County. Um, Thank you, brother.
So let me say one more thing. There was never anybody who actually took me under my wings to say, this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. But I watched people. I paid attention to people. And I remember when I first got hired, there were so few blacks that when you saw another black person, it was like having a party. You know what I'm saying? I remember Rico Shepard, Darrell Walker, Melvin Gregory getting involved in the progressives and stuff like that. And there was always a little nugget of something that I saw from somebody that helped me. And it wasn't always a officer or something like that. It was always a little nugget of somebody. I didn't talk to a lot of people. And a lot of people know that I didn't talk to a lot of people. But I always watched. I watched Tony. I watched you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Russ, I watched you. Rob Ford, I watched. Cliff, I watched. Charles Bailey, I watched. Tim Ferguson, I watched. Darren Carter, I watched. Kevin Benz, I watched. Kevin McLaughlin, I watched. You know, Kenny McLaughlin, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All of these people that came across my face, I got a little bit of nugget of something that they did, you know? And it's unfortunate that, I won't say it's unfortunate, it's how it is. You learn what you want to be, and then you learn what you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the fire department gives you plenty of examples of both.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Well, if people wanted to get in touch with you now, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
My email address is staj55@gmail. I don't do Facebook, and I don't do Instagram or anything like that. I may start because I have a house down in Florida that I'm renting. If you want to call me, phone number is 240-351-3976.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you once again, brother. Thank you. Thank you for giving us your time and your story, man.
Yes.
Good stuff, brother.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the When the Smoke Clears podcast. Be sure to check out our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Just search for the When the Smoke Clears podcast. Feel free to email us at whenthesmokeclears8@gmail.com. That's whenthesmokeclears and the number 8@gmail.com. You can also support the show by going to the website buymeacoffee.com/whenthesmokeclears and donating however much you'd like.